Howdy, everybody in YouTube land. It looks like we are back in Toshiba world again. Now, if y'all remember, I just did a video not too long ago about the Toshiba T3100, and remember mine had a bad hard drive, but everything else was good. Now, we've got some spare hard drives here, and if they're any good, I could probably borrow the circuit board and use that for data recovery or just to verify that the heads are good, things like that. You know what I mean? So, anyways, so these machines are not mine. They were shipped in for repair, and we have a letter. Let's see. It says, Mike, welcome to the Toshiba T3100 infirmary. I spared you the pain of having to crack them all open. Two of them post. All the power supplies seem to work. At least on the 5 volt, 12 volt side. Haven't checked the 200 volt side. There is only one screen and it's got some screwed pixel strips. Yeah, not surprised. They all do that. But it works and lights up. It's probably that one right there. Okay, there is a spare hard drive. Now, got that. I held on to the other bezels just because of the size and space that they take up. Well, yeah, but unfortunately, one of these got shipping damaged, I think, because they're not together and held together properly. But anyways, just need one made functional. Don't care which. Obviously, the 386 is preferred. If you can get two working, you can have one for yourself. Well, I appreciate the gesture. That's awesome. However, it's going to be a little difficult when I don't have all of the parts. But that's okay. Let's just focus on getting one of them working for him. Prefer the 386, but I don't see a 386. We have, unless this is one. Let's see. This unit posts, but no screen. There could be 50 million reasons why that is. No. This is the T3120, so that is not the 386. This is the 286, just like mine. This one is also the T3120, which is the same exact one that I have. So then this must be it. Wow. Yikes. That's not how you take these apart. Yikes. Okay. Well, anyways. Let's see. What do we have here? This thing. Doing! PS Works does not post. T3100, but it's not the 20. I think these are all... Yeah, that got broken. Yeah, you can't... This is completely busted off. So, unfortunately, shipping them without all of their parts was actually detrimental to one's health. So, I'm probably going to have to piece together the best one out of all of them, because this thing's chewed up. It's busted down here. I mean, anyways. So this one works, does not post. This one does post, but no screen. And this one doesn't have a tag. So we don't know. They all appear to be T3100s. They're all 286s. I don't see a 386 here, but anyways, we'll move along and see what we discover through the process here. All right, so let's start with this one, which is the one that says won't posts but no screen. This is the path of least resistance because it's already taken apart. So let's start with that and see what we get, because I don't know. Here we go. Hard drive is just as dead as mine was. Nope. No screen whatsoever. All right, we got to do some voltage checks. So when diagnosing one of these that has no picture, the first place we start is on a plasma display. We start at the voltages. So 5 volts, we actually have, let's start at minus HV. We do not have our high voltage. Let's start at LVCC, which I think is a different high voltage, but it's still there. No. So there's our problem. The high voltage power supply is not operating inside this machine. So at this point, I think we want to triage this stuff. So I'm just going to say on this one is no HV. Now, these plasma panels need two voltages. You need the sustain voltage and you need the address voltage. And I think they're usually, this old stuff is always one's 2x over the other. So there's a 100 volt and a 200 volt or something like that anyways, 80 volt and a 160 volt or generally. Now, that's not always the case, but that's just general. Now, this thing does have, is that a fuse or is that a, what is that? No, that's a tantalum. That's a very, very early tantalum. I wonder if that's shorted. There's another one here too. I just now noticed it. I didn't even notice that on mine. Anyways, so we're going to have to take this one apart. But before we do, we need to triage the other units and see what's going on. So we know what this one is doing. We'll just shove you down here for now. Hard drive doesn't spin. You can hear it click just like mine does, but no spin. So that's also dead, just like mine was. So moving right along, let's grab the next one. So let's start with this one. Power supply works, does not post. This is the non-HD one, but it's awful heavy, so I think it has one in it, but I could be wrong. Now this one's been busted up in shipping. There's some broken pieces everywhere, and I think these things, I'm just going to be straight out honest with you. They were not packed properly at all, the way they were just thrown in the box. So I'm not surprised, but it's possible it could have been destroyed before they were shipped to me. And maybe it was received like that as a parts lot. I don't know. But unfortunately, this one here, I'm missing all the little plasticky bits. So, and I'm not into 3D printing, so I can't fix that. So this is essentially a parts machine, at least this part of it anyway. So I know at least one of these is going to get scrapped out for parts. Let's find out if it's going to be this one. So for now, taking all of you apart. These hinges just come off like that. I mean, it's pretty beat up. We've got little thingies coming off. So that doesn't sit on there well. I think the screws are already loose on this, but maybe not. I'm going to dive in there. Alright, so I got the lid off, and it looks like it was not stored very well. Maybe it was stored in a barn or something. But hey, it's got a hard drive in it, just like the other one. So, it's funny because this one's not marked the /20, so who knows. But yeah, there's a lot of busted plastics everywhere. And you know what? I can see rust here. So this thing was not stored properly at all. Maybe it was stored in a barn. Who knows? Keyboard is less yellowed, so we have that going for us. But let's... Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. This is junk. Wow. That is a parts machine. Yep, this is definitely the parts machine. Holy crap-a-moly. Oh, the keyboard might be alright. But does not post. Well, gee. I wonder why. The aluminum is just rotting away. So this isn't even sitting in the CPU anymore. It's gone. No, this is a 286 as well. None of these are 386s. All of these are 286s. So I guess we're just going to have to make the best one of the three. Because that's a no. No. Well, there's no sense in trying to... Actually, you know what? You know what? Screw it. What damage can be done? It's already screwed, right? Does the hard drive spin? No. It does not. I think every single one of these has the same problem. Yeah. 8042 keyboard controller. But, this is, oof. Still no RAM expansion, so it's gonna be hard. I need to find one of these that has a RAM expansion so I can reverse engineer it and make new ones. I need that. So if anybody watching this video has one of these machines with the RAM card in it, let me know. Let me borrow it because I want to reverse engineer it. But yeah, this one's definitely parts unit. Oh yeah. I just lifted the hard drive cage up. You got to tear this thing all the way apart just to get that out. But look how bad that is. I don't know if the hard drive survived. I don't even know if any of these drives work anymore, to be honest. But I took the power supply out so I could reuse that on the other one to solve that problem. But this is junk. This is parts machines at this point. So plastic's all busted up, so I don't have to worry about saving that. The battery is actually still wet. You can still see it's caustic. In fact, the smell emanating from this is actually burning my nostrils. So this is fairly recent. Yeah, it's bad. So this thing's trash. It's trash. So we're just gonna save it. The parts that I can save. And that's it. Oh, hey, we got a button now. Remember, mine was missing the button. So we have a button. Oh, crap. Alright, well, that one was a no-go. Not even remotely, so let's triage the next one. The plastics in this one are in a little bit better shape, but let's see. Looks like this one has already been removed once before. Okay, that's not good. It's missing everything. Damn. Really? Let's see. There's a tag in there. Let's figure out what that says. I'm out of room to put shit, so excuse me a moment. I'm gonna set that on the floor. Okay, let's see. It says this unit posts, but this cable is suspect. Yeah, I'd say. I mean, maybe. But we're missing the internal cartridge cage and floppy drive and all of that stuff. And the other one's no count. So it's full of rust and lithium grease from lithium batteries. This one is just barely hanging in there. Alright, well, oh, God. Yikes. Let's see, what CPU does this one have? Okay, so this is the 3120 as well as all the other ones. Oh, this is a different board. It doesn't have as many chips. Still needs the expansion, which is still missing. Ooh, a little bit of leakage there, but not like the other one. What in Sam Hill happened here? So someone replaced this. That's not factory. Well, the factory might have replaced it at one point, but this is... Well, the good news is I have a parts board that's battery bombed, so I can unsolder this off the other board and replace it. So I'm not worried about that. That's not a big deal. So I could probably make 2 of these out of 3 that work. One is for sure parts. It's for sure parts. Man, this is... I don't know the shape of the capacitors on this one. If they're any good, if they're leaking. I want to say this was made before they started the leak. 86, yeah, that's just before. So in theory, I shouldn't have a problem with them, but 88, maybe not. Man. Alright, well, this one posts, but it has a display cable problem. So I think what we're going to have to do is take the display cable off the battery bombed one and then take this power supply and put it on the other one. Huh. Yeah, I gotta mull this over for a minute. Just out of the sheer curiosity, this is just for my own curiosity. This is the hard drive out of the battery bombed one. Let's see if it works. Well, it doesn't spin. And it may not until it gets a signal. I don't know. Yeah, I can't see what's on screen, so I don't know what's going to happen. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, nope. Bad heads. Not surprised. Not surprised in the slightest. I mean, look at it. Look at it. These things are not perfectly sealed either, because remember, the circuit board is part of the sealing, so I guarantee some of that crap got in there. But hey, you know what? The circuitry might work. I mean, this looks like a different design, but it might work on my drive. I don't know. Let's try the one that was in the spare bag. Sounds like it's throwing a hissy fit. But then again, remember the caps leak in these drives too, so this looks like the same as my board. Unlike this one, this is a different, this must be an earlier revision. Let's see what happens. So I've never seen one of these drives run before. No. It's hissing really bad. It's the caps in the drive. This one might have predated that. No, I see some there. That is a no. That drive is also dead. Well, that's 2 for 3 so far. Actually 3 for 3 because the other one didn't spin up either. So, Alright, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the other one with the bad power supply back on this bench, and I want to see if the drive will at least spin up on that one. Alright, let's try this one again. Since we know the drive won't spin until we get past the error message. I didn't know that before. Let's see what happens. Hey, that one initialized. It did. Wow, it did. That drive might actually be good. That's surprising, honestly. I don't know if it's got leaky caps in it. If it does, they're going to have to be taken care of. But the drive spins. Color me impressed. Still throwing an error. Who knows why? Perhaps it's not a good drive. Oh man, I don't know yet until I get the plasma panel turned on. I got to swap this out, but yeah. So let's see. I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna swap out this power supply real quick. Yeah, that's unfortunate. If this is dead too, then that's 3 for 3. I almost feel like every single one of these is junk by this point. Power supply module is swapped out. I got the old one up here. If this works, I might do a failure analysis on that and see what happens. So let's get the power plugged in here. Here we go. There we go. That's better. Defaults into memory. Yeah, this is fun. Hang on, I gotta move this screen out of the way because it is in my way. I can't use the keyboard, and I am not grabbing that with my raw fingers with no yeah, with high voltage running through it. So let's try this again. All right. Interesting. I don't get that error now. So your default's F1. Will the hard drive spin? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, come on. Nope. No hard drive. Okay, I need to get this positioned in a way where I can actually do something. Alright. Drive is spun up. We're situated, I think. We're not really booting, so I don't think it can read this drive. Are you surprised? Yeah, that's what I thought. Damn. At least this one spins, but that's all it does. Yeah. Oh, well. It is what it is. Well, that's 3 for 3. That's dead. Oh, you know what? I just noticed something. Caution. Het sinks. Het sinks. Not heat sinks. Het sinks. That's funny. But hey, good news. High voltage works on this one, but not the other one. Now, I'm looking at the original power supply, and I noticed right away. I mean, it's an older one, so we got orange caps, but it's high hour. Look how burnt that resistor leg is, but it gets crazy. There's one over here. There's some over there. That's pretty crazy. So it's on all these power resistors. So one of those resistors probably went open, if I were to hazard a guess, which is why we have no high voltage. I'm kind of all over the place in this video, but you got to think I got 3 of these machines I'm working on. Since the hard drives are basically junk, all 3 of them are, I can screw around with those on the parts machine. But what I think I'm going to do is the priority right now, since these machines belong to another person, is to make one good one. And because the drives are junk, I think what I want to do is I'm going to take that machine and make it a dual floppy machine. So we've got this second floppy drive that's come from the parts machine. So we've got 3 machines, but we only have 2 floppy drives. We're missing a floppy drive, and these are getting hard to get. But because that machine is going to be his machine, his nice machine, I'm going to make a dual floppy, and then he can buy an XT to IDE converter to plug in the expansion slot for all of that. But yeah, I'm just going to fix that one up, making a dual floppy type of setup, and kick that one off to the side. Because we've already covered the topic of getting a machine working in my previous video. I want to focus more on troubleshooting the power supply, screwing around with the drives, flip-flopping the cables, things like that in this video. But before I can put this drive in there, it has a problem. Hear that? This drive might be junk. I don't know. I think there's crap in there because this was out of the battery bundle. So let's get this spindle off and see what we're dealing with. I'm working on someone else's machine and I have the right button now. That's what it looks like in design. And that's it. So we got it pretty close. I haven't measured this depth or anything yet, but that's what it looks like. It's like one section's rounded off a tiny bit more than the other, but it could be an optical illusion. Don't know. Alright, a couple hours later, I finally got this thing together. So, this drive wouldn't exactly fit in here. It sits too low. I think there's a custom bracket because where the drive normally gets, there's like bumps here and here. And then there's tabs the drive sits on. Well, that doesn't exist over here. So it just sits too low. What I had to do was grab some of these washers. Nothing special there. And put them under the screw holes and then set the drive up and put the screws in through the bottom where the hard drive screws used to be. That allows the drive to sit up properly so that it doesn't jam. So now I can actually get the disc in there and out of there. And I can do the same on this side as well. Now, there's still a wild card if either of these drives even work. I don't know. We're going to find out though. And I already did the battery mod, so I took the original battery out, heat shrinked it. You can't see it up under there, but there's some heat shrink tubing connecting the battery back where it used to be. So coin cells installed, and you can turn it on and off. It's just a generic thing. It's in there with some VHB tape, so if you ever need to replace the battery, you could just pop it open right there and pull the battery out. So, all right, that's done. And I think I'm going to put because I have 3 keyboards, and the one that was in this machine is extremely yellowed. So I'm going to put the best looking keyboard in here, which I think is the one from the battery bombed machine. So yeah, there's that. All right, so the floppy drive is working. Now, unfortunately, the B drive, if I go to the B drive, it'll see the drive, but it'll say insert disk, and it's still using the same drive. So, I don't know. It's not recognizing this diskette drive over here. And it's probably because I need to find the BIOS setup utility and actually set that. But the disk that I had used for this, I must have reformatted because I can't find it. So now I gotta go make a new 720K disk. Oh well, is what it is. Alright, there we go. So now we're in the system setup utility for the Toshiba. So I got both drives enabled. I got the hard drive disabled since there isn't one. Alright, so oops, it just reset itself. Alright, so we're gonna have to go setup to manual. Oh yeah, I gotta reset all that again too. Grr! So alright, so two, no drive, system board, no memory expansion, leave that alone. Alright, so there we go again. I'll have to fix that later. I can fix that on startup though. Alright, I think it's gonna reboot now. Yeah. Which means I should be able to read the B drive. Oh boy. I think I've already got a disc in there. Yeah, I do. Alright, it is, what is today again? Okay, September the 20th, so 9/20/2024. Don't care about the time. So B drive. Yeah. Okay. Why? Alright, that's weird. So every time I run the configuration and reboot, it's resetting the floppy back to 1. So either this drive is dead, or it needs a special cable that tells the BIOS that I'm working in drive B, which I don't know how much I believe that either. Or perhaps I looked at the dip switch settings in the service manual, and there's nothing related to the floppy drive. So the only thing that I can think of, and I tried messing with this switch, it didn't matter. So the only thing that I can presumably think of here is the system does not have the capability of working with a second floppy drive, either because it's hard locked in the BIOS, or there's a jumper on the board somewhere physically that I don't know of. There's a reason. All right, well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to scrap this second drive idea because I've been tinkering with this thing for hours. Now I'm stumbling on my words. I'm tired. I can't get it figured out. There's no documentation anywhere on how to turn it on. It's possible that they use a physically different BIOS for double drive versus having the hard drive. I don't know, but it doesn't work. So pulling it back out, there's no sense in it being in there. So I just realized that the controller for this particular drive, the one that wouldn't initialize properly, like it has a bad head. Well, the controller for that drive is different than the controller for this drive. And I was trying to test that drive on this controller, and that's interesting. So I did some Googling, and apparently the T3100 and the 3100/20 are different. The 3100, which is what this is from, is only a 10 megabyte drive. Explains why the drive has slightly different circuitry, where these are 20 megabyte drives. So I'm going to try this again with this controller, just out of curiosity and to see what happens. Now, the original owner of this machine went ahead and ordered one of those XT IDE compact flash cards that go in here, so none of this is important anyways, but I am curious if this actually works. Alright, so here we go. Drive's connected in. I am not expecting anything to work, but we'll see. Cross our fingers. See what happens. Not much. Oh, it's coming up. See if it does the same thing. No, it's not. It actually did something. Hey, it's happy. Well, it's not booting. Whoa, it is booting. Holy crap. Wouldn't surprise me if that's lost media now. Because that hard drive is actually functioning. I'm surprised. I mean, it's battery bombed. That's impressive. That is impressive that this drive is working. Okay, so yeah, they have to be paired with their controllers. So the 10 megabyte drive, well, kind of works. It's locked up now. Maybe there's a bad sector or 10 or 100, but it is working. So I'm going to probe around on this for a little bit and just try to figure out what we got going. Oh yeah, missing command interpreter. And the keyboard's not responding. So there's definitely a problem there. But hey, we're getting somewhere. Well, I had to boot with the floppy diskette, and I was able to do a directory listing of the hard drive itself, but it's definitely on its last legs, because it's not yeah, it's done. I mean, I'm sure a low-level format could probably bring that back, but I don't know. Yeah, this drive is definitely gone. I would probably suspect that a low-level format could take care of it, but honestly, I don't know. Because this is a stepper drive, so, I mean, it is kind of known for stepper drives, magnetic fade, stuff like that. We might be able to low-level format it. Uses a Western Digital controller, so I bet the debug command would probably work for this drive, but I'm not sure. What is it, the D500 or D800:5 or whatever it is, I forget. Yeah, that's not good. So, yeah. Wow, I got this drive back alive. You can see where the head crashed. So this drive is not long for this world. But, look at that. Wow. Alright, so this drive actually works without issue as long as I free up the platter. So that's all that's wrong with this drive besides leaky capacitors. Now, for some reason, this drive will spin up freely. It's not, stuck like the other one is, but it won't initialize. It'll get to this very last sector and it gives up. Or, well, it track zero because it pulls all the way back where this track zero sensor is right there. And it won't initialize. So I don't know if it's a head problem, if it's a platter problem, or a controller problem. There's only 3 options it could be here. So I have my drive, which doesn't spin up at all. Remember, we went through that whole exercise. So I wonder if I can take that platter and put it onto this drive to know if it's a platter problem or if it's a head problem, because really, we don't know. You want to see something mind-blowing? Now my hard drive is actually working. The one I spent all that time trying to diagnose, it's spun up. And actually, I'm using a different controller. I'm using the controller that was with this machine, so maybe that's what it was. Maybe the controller's bad on mine. Anyways, I'm doing a low-level format because nothing on this drive was readable at all. Which makes sense because if I remember when I took this apart, I actually took the heads out, which knocked everything out of alignment. So I'm not surprised. We'll see. This thing may be junk, but it may not be. Alright, so I did a platter swap. Same problem. That is a no. So there's something wrong with either the head or the controller on this one. That's my suspicion anyways. Alright, well, let's move the platter from this one onto the other one. So I swapped platters between the drives, but both drives exhibit the same behavior with their respective drives. So there's a controller problem on this drive and there's a controller problem on this drive. Now, this is the one that I recapped and tried to fix many months ago. I'm noticing the head is further back on one drive versus the other. So maybe there's an alignment issue with this one, because every time it tries to read and write this platter, because this one will attempt to read and write, but it fails. And then when it gets to a certain point, somewhere in the middle, this motor controller freaks out and gives up. And then the drive will spin down. So there's definitely a problem with this drive. I'm not sure what. So, yeah. This one won't even attempt to initialize. It'll bring the head back and then it stops. So, not sure what's going on with that. So, that's two drives that did, but at least the other one works. Mostly. Here is why these drives are doomed to failure. Those caps sit under the platters. The platter has to come off if you want any chance of longevity with this drive. It's silly. Alright, so I got this other drive working now by reseating all the head cables, the ones that would just stick and not do anything and to not initialize. I reseated all the cables, but it's just doing the same thing. That drive is bad heads. Bad heads. Either that or the preamplifier IC is bad. And the other problem is there's a lot of these potentiometers in here and I have no idea what they're supposed to be set at because I don't have the service documentation for this drive. I'm sure if I had the service documentation, I can have an oscilloscope at the right test points and check all of these, you know, pots to get them set right. But anyways, I think this is a fruitless effort. I've got one drive that works and that's it. So, yep, I think we're done here. So what you're about to see going forward are some hard drive shenanigans. Now, I want to insert a disclaimer here. It feels like it's all over the place and stuff like that, because it is. And that disclaimer is, do not use my videos as a basis of reference on how to professionally repair hard drives, because everything that I do in these videos with hard drives is the exact opposite of professional. Please understand that these hard drives are beyond, you know, anything in their within reasonable lifespan of what these are expected to last. And it's literally toys at this point. I'm just tinkering around with these to see if I can get them working for data recovery purposes, and that's it. If I can continue to use them after the fact, I just know that it's on borrowed time. And if they don't work at all, they don't work at all, because they don't work as they are anyways. So, in order to professionally service hard drives, you have to have proper platter extraction tools, proper alignment tools, head combs, a clean room, things like that, in order to professionally service hard drives. In this case, we're not doing any of those things. So, just be forewarned that everything preceding in this video and screwing around with these hard drives is not professional, not any way safe, and that if it works, great. If not, that's it. Alright, so this is the only drive that runs. And the only way it runs is if I bring the heads all the way back so it'll spin up on its own. Otherwise, I have to push it because the platter is extremely tight. And the reason why that is there's debris on the platter. There's like an oily substance, and that oily substance is coming from the capacitor leakage. And that's what's going on with these drives, in my opinion, is cap juice is getting on the platter, it's destroying the heads, and that's it. So we've got another hard drive over here that's my original hard drive, which has a bad head. It finally started spinning up and doing work, and I think that's because of the controller. I think my controller might have been bad, and that's okay. So with this controller, it works fine, and but the head's bad. Anyways, and it's entirely possible my unprofessionalism with hard drive repair here. It's possible I could have killed the heads, because what I've been doing is I've been using this Q-tip to hold the heads away from each other to remove the platter, and then I've been removing this slowly out of there to let the heads rest on each other. Maybe that's bad. I've done it with the quantum drives and not had a problem, but with these drives maybe I do. But then again, these drives are kind of meant to be serviced with just how they're designed. You've got adjustment pots and all kinds of things everywhere, so I can't imagine the heads coming in contact with each other would hurt them. Now, if they go clank and smack against each other, yeah, that's going to destroy them, but that's not what happened here. So it's possible that I just have two drives with damaged heads. The heads are just gone. And I tried platter swapping them to make sure that it isn't a problem with the platter, and both drives have the exact same behavior in the exact same way. I'm not going to be moving heads around. Now, this drive here has got really bad leaking capacitors. It runs now, but it won't for long. So I'm going to fire this drive up so I can do some data recovery and forensics just for fun. And then I might, since this drive's not going to spin up on its own anyways, without help, I might try to take this drive apart and not remove the Q-tip from the head stack and just leave it in there. Try to do some recapping and cleaning up, and then clean the platter up as best as I can and put it back together and see if it'll work. I could put the other two platters in this drive, but there's not going to be any data on it anyways because I tried to low-level format those. So then again, if the heads are bad on the other drives, the platters may be untouched. You never know. But here's the thing. This is technically a stepper drive. So the platter alignment is going to be specific to this drive's low-level formatting. Because as you remember earlier in the video, we had slight different head positions between the two other drives. So swapping the platters, I feel, is going to put this drive at unnecessary risk anyways. So instead, I think I'm going to recover the data off of it, then take the platter out, do some recapping and cleaning up, put it back together, and attempt to fire it up again. See what happens. It's either going to start doing the click of death where it's unable to read, or it's going to continue to work fine. We'll see. Here we go. We are backing up the now functional, the only functional 20 megabyte JVC hard drive. And it's got leaking capacitors, but you know what? It's reading. We're backing it up to a zip disk. Like that's any more reliable. Can't be any less reliable than that, though. The other thing that's painfully apparent here, this is going to take a long time. The other thing I want to go over too is how I'm actually performing this operation. Since this is a 286 with base memory, you can't run things like Norton Ghost. It's just not going to work. So what I'm doing is I'm running Norton Disk Editor 6.0 for DOS. I've got a DOS boot disk in here with the Palm Zip driver. So I formatted a zip disk at 32 megs because it's DOS 3.3. I needed as much conventional memory as I could possibly get. So I'm using DOS 3.3, formatted this disk over here for 32 megs, and I'm running Norton Disk Editor. I switched to the physical drive over here, selected all the sectors, and I'm writing it to a file that's on this disk. Now, I've already run into a few sectors that are bad on this drive, and one of them is even on the defect list. And then this one clicked once on me too, so it's like I'm copying unreliable to unreliable. But hey, that's how we roll around here. That's how we ball. Now, I wish we had a solid state zip drive emulator. Now, if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense, right? But it does in a situation like this where you don't have any expansion, a way to plug another drive in here. So it'd be nice to have a SD card based zip emulator so I can shoot files over to an SD card instead of dealing with this. All right, so I got the drive image. Went ahead and threw it on the other machine, backed it up. So I'm running Norton Disk Doctor now, and these bad blocks were already there, and I was running into those in the disk editor program. I had to keep hitting abort, 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 abort to get past it. I figured it was new developed sectors, but no, these have always been there. So now it's a matter of scanning the drive and see if there's any more. I don't think there is because I didn't get any other errors. We'll see. If I don't get any other errors, then I'm just going to go ahead and call that backup good, and I'll probably take this thing completely apart and recap it, clean off the platter and put it back in there and see if it still works. Or if I lose it like I did the other two drives. Because I can't tell if the other two drives were already bad or if I caused it. I don't know. But this one won't start without assistance anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's not like I can put it back in here and use it. You got to bring the head all the way around because there's capacitor juice sitting on the platter. So it has to come apart. There's no choice. Question is, will it survive it? I don't know. We'll find out. Well, it looks like the surface scan was working without error. So, all right, we're good. Okay, now I can shut the power off on this thing. Let's look for the switch. There it is. So we are good to go. I can take this drive fully apart and attempt to do some repairs. Because the thing is, the platter won't spin up with the head in the landing zone. I have to do this. I have to bring the head all the way out like this before it'll start. Otherwise it won't work. So it's unfortunate, but we'll see what we can do with it, because otherwise the drive is working fine. But I'm not gonna, this is totally unreliable. All right, it's now or never. So I took the hub off, but before I did, I marked where it is. Not that it probably matters, but I want to be double sure. I marked it on the top of the platter, and then I marked the hub where it is. So I can remove this platter and know where everything goes. This time, I left the thing in there. No. See, yeah, you see that right here? I don't know if it'll come out in camera, but there's literally a mark. It's not coming out in camera. You see the ring? There's like this little ring all the way around here, and then there's like it's being overexposed in the camera, but there's like a little spot where the head was left and fused itself to the platter. So I have to clean all that off. Same thing over here too. You can see a mark. This drive is essentially toast, but hey, I backed it up, so this is safe to do. But the reason why this platter has to come out anyways is because there's capacitors up under this filter. So you have to, yeah, anyways. So when I remove this filter assembly, that's what I mean. They're right there. And you can see that they're leaking a little bit, so they have to be replaced. So if I have any chance of this drive surviving, they have to be replaced. But I know it's not going to run long because you can see the ring groove cut in the platter. In the landing zone from the head, there's no bad sectors there, but yeah. So the spindle itself is free. There's no problems here. See? So the stiction is not from the spindle. The stiction is from the head running the platter. Now, from what I understand, there's actually a very specialized lubricant that these platters are coated with in the factory when they're manufactured, which helps the head glide the landing zone easier, because they do float above the platter surface. It's like an air bearing, but the thing is when the disc is spinning down or spinning up, it does ride the platter. And in order for that to work, you need, modern drives bring the heads out into their own resting position off the platter. Older drives rested them on the platter in the landing zone. So that landing zone has to be lubricated, because if it's not, the head won't ride the platter. All right, so I got the drive recapped, platter removed, put back in there. Who knows if it's going to work again after that? I really don't know. Unfortunately, the platter is still very hard to turn when the head's all the way in the landing zone. So I think the platter lubricant is just worn off. So this drive will never work properly again. So unfortunately, that's going to be that for that drive. But I do want to see if what I did was successful or not. Will it spin or not? I don't know. We'll see. No. So what you have to do to get this to work right is you have to move this all the way up, hold it there while turning the power on. Just hold it. The drive will spin up and then let go. See? Platter lubricant's gone. Don't know if the drive's any good or not after removing the platter. Let's see. Nope. Yeah, you can't take the platters out of these drives. You just can't do it. So, unfortunately, every single one of these 3840s they're just going to be junk. So, can't take the platters out. All right, well, moving right along. We're done with hard drive shenanigans. Let's just move on. In a perfect world, it would be nice if I actually had service data for this drive, where I can check waveforms and check the settings of this pot, because I was able to get this to partially low-level format by adjusting this potentiometer here, which is in the head circuit. So I'm assuming that's a read gain or write gain adjustment or something, but I don't know. I don't have the service documentation for this drive. It would be nice if I did, but it is what it is. Alright, so now we are backing up the nuclear drive, which is metaphorically, phorically, all of that speaking, the nuclear drive that has gone nuclear. So hopefully we can get that image. Right, so all of the 20 megabyte drive shenanigans are over. I'm done with that for now. So I moved on to this battery bound 10 megabyte drive, and it actually works. It was locking up and not reading properly, but I decided to run my imaging tool thing here, and it's reading fine without any errors so far. So I'm going to back that up. And the only reason why I back this stuff up is because there could be software on here that's never been archived. Personal data, documents, stuff like that, I trash all of that, but I do keep miscellaneous software. So I'm backing this drive up, and then after I do that and I ensure that I have a good copy of the drive image, then I'll go in there and do a low-level format and all that stuff and play around with this one. This one has the same problem. It's got capacitors in there, and I already know if I take the platter out and put it back in, it's going to throw the alignment off enough to where it's not going to work anymore. I'm starting to suspect that the way that these drives work is there's a control track written to the platter that's like a blank carrier or something like that, that's setting the right bias, the right amplitude or record level, and the AGC gain on the read back. And without those initial settings, it's not going to read or write properly. And I think that's what's going on with the other drives. But again, that's just a guess because I don't have any service documentation. So I got everything backed up, no problem. As soon as I ran the diagnostic software to do a format of this drive, it formatted it. It went to do a verify. It failed, which is funny because I didn't have any read errors the first time around. And then that's it. The drive no longer initializes. It just pins the head and that's it. So, God, that tells me it's got to be like, I don't know. I'm running out of ideas. I'm just guessing, throwing darts at a wall with the lights off at this point. But I'm curious if it's the when it went to write the disc, it's not, again, it's writing at the wrong amplitude or the wrong bias, so now it's not reading the control track anymore. Oh well. Out with the drives. They're all junk. All four of them are dead. Trash. All right. Well, there's really not much else to do at this point. I don't have the bezels or anything like that. None of that was sent to me. All of these, this is the only good one that still has the standoffs intact. The rest of them are all busted off, so even though this one is not as good a shape as the other ones, this is the only one that's going to hold together. So that's what got put in there. It's basically all assembled now. He's going to have to put the bezel on himself, and that's going to be it. And he's going to get an XT to IDE converter to do all of that stuff. So, and honestly, I need to buy one of those myself for mine. And that'll get this thing basically up and going again. But for now, it's working as it is. There's nothing wrong with any of the keyboard functions or anything like that. So I put the best keyboard in there that wasn't yellowed. The other ones are like atrociously yellowed. So I basically built the best one out of the bunch of parts that I could do. Yeah, here's the hinge. You can see where it just ripped right off. So, and then this is the only display bezel that I have that doesn't have the standoffs broken off. I didn't check to see which one he has. There's 3 of them. I have 2 of them here, and the 2 that I hear, this is the only one I have that's any good. And even with this one, there's a little bit of a crack forming back here. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. So, oh yeah, before I forget, the power supply that had no high voltage, I'm going to do a failure analysis on that, I think, in a separate video. That way it could be easily searchable. So if someone's got one of these and has a power supply problem, they can find it in a specific video. So I'm going to move that off into a separate video. Let's see. And I think there's not much else to do other than that. I mean, I can take the wiring harness off the battery bombed one and move it over to the other one, but we don't need to get that on the video. And we've already got the hard drive madness in this one, so that's all garbage. So all 4 drives, one's mine, of course. All 4 drives are dead, and I don't know why they're dead, but they're dead. And then one of them was working fine, and then formatting it killed it. I don't know. Anyways, so yes, failure analysis of that power supply will be in a different video. So that leaves what to do with the rest of this mess. Well, unfortunately, there's not enough good parts left over to make any more units. So, for example, this one's got some corrosion on it, but it's not a big deal. That's totally screwed, of course. And then we have this, but unfortunately the standoffs are busted off on both sides, so can't do anything with that. I mean, you could like 3D print stuff to do something, but I'm not doing all that, so it's scrap. Same thing here. We got a busted standoff, missing thingamabob. It's like the power books, really. The plastic is starting to get soft, and there's so much torsion and stuff like that. But anyway, so I got all the leftover screws and all that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to box up all the spare parts that he needs to keep his machines going, or his one machine going. And then we'll just get rid of all the scrap at this point. So we've got one power supply that is bad with no high voltage, and we got another power supply that's good, so I'll send that power supply back. I'll send the keyboard and stuff, all that stuff back, so that way he'll have a bunch of spare parts he needs to keep that one going, and the rest of this crap, well, it gets thrown in the parts bin. Now this one's going to be a parts unit because I don't have enough parts to make a good one, but I decided to pull out this hokey cable thing where it looks like someone was prying on it. It says this cable is suspect. Well, if I take a very careful look where someone was prying on it, well, they broke the connection there. But not only that, they also broke it right here in this via. They broke that via. That via goes up to this pin here and then out over somewhere over here to this gate array. So, yeah, that's a problem because that won't... 7430, I'm not sure. I think this is for the parallel port. So, if that's broke, parallel port's not going to work. So, in order for this motherboard to even be usable, we've got 2 patch wires that we have to make. And then we have to replace the cable. Alright, well, that mess is fixed. Patch wire here and a little jumper link there, which connects from this point, I don't know where it goes, off there somewhere, from here up to this buffer over here. So that's also important. Anyways, it's put together now. I can go ahead and ship this thing back off to its original owner. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and all of that fun stuff. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching.